A radio host who worked with Ellen DeGeneres back in 2013 has spoken out about the strange set of rules he was given and how he was supposed to behave while he was around Ellen. Neil Breen is a radio show host who runs 4BC Breakfast in Australia. He also worked as an executive producer on The Today Show in Australia back in 2013. During his time working on The Today Show, he was part of a team that interviewed Ellen DeGeneres in Melbourne. He claims that there were some strange conditions for working for Ellen. Firstly, he and his crew had to fly out of Melbourne at their expense to tape the interview. He said, I quote, "Originally she was going to co-host The Today Show, and then she was going to do this, then she was going to do that, and the whole thing got watered down to Ellen DeGeneres would do a sit-down interview. Because it's the Ellen Show, they controlled everything. They controlled the interview seats, the lights, how it would work, everything. The producers called us aside and said, okay, this is how it's going to work here this morning. Ellen's going to arrive at 10:15, and she'll be sitting in this chair here. And Richard, you'll be sitting in this chair here. Neil, no one's to talk to Ellen. So you don't talk to her, you don't approach her, you don't look at her. She'll come in, she'll sit down, she'll talk to Richard, and Ellen will leave. I found the whole thing bizarre." He said that with every word Ellen DeGeneres said, her team would giggle and laugh. So much so that he had to tell them to be quiet since they were taping an interview. I'm not blaming Ellen because I didn't get to talk to her because I wasn't allowed to, so I don't know whether she's a nice person or not. I wouldn't have a clue, but I can tell you the people who worked around her walked on eggshells the whole time. Honestly, as someone who has worked on set and someone who knows people in the industry who work behind the scenes with huge celebrities, it's really not uncommon for celebrities to request that they not be spoken to by anyone. I can understand if it's someone who was like, let's say, a method actor, someone who needs to be in the zone and focus before they film a big scene and they don't want to be bothered by, let's say, background actors. Cause you know, that's kind of a thing. You're on the set of a big TV show as a background actor and you're really close to these celebrities. You want to get like selfies with them and stuff, and you're so close that you can actually see how much makeup they wear when they're shooting. Kiefer Sutherland. Sorry, what was that in my throat? It really doesn't surprise me that Ellen doesn't want to be spoken to by the little people, as they call them. That's kinda just how it works. Not saying it's right, but I'm just telling you, Ellen isn't the only celebrity that makes these kind of demands.
Ellen DeGeneres just announced that she's going to be ending her show after the 19th season is finished. She's claiming that the move isn't due to her massive scandal, but instead the fact that she is no longer creatively fulfilled. Not sure if I buy that, but okay. A lot of influencers have reacted to this news, and some of their responses will shock you. In at number 10, Katherine Kelly Lang. It seems that soap actress Katherine Kelly Lang and entertainment reporter Richard Reed actually tried to warn us about Ellen's mean behavior before it was exposed. The now resurfaced clip is from the show I'm a Celebrity in January of 2019. When someone asked who the biggest mole in Hollywood was, Reed whispered, "Ellen, not nice." Lang agreed, saying, quote, "She's great to watch on her show and everything, but I think her personality is completely different when you get her behind the scenes." Reed then replied, quote, "I've heard it's hard to work on her show." After that big secret was exposed, the other members in the group seemed really disappointed in the news because Ellen was known at that time for being the nicest person in the business. And it's crazy that even though other celebrities were exposing that years ago, nobody actually listened. In at number 9, Richard Wilkins. Nine's entertainment editor Richard Wilkins revealed in an article what it was like interviewing Ellen many years ago, following the news of her show ending. Wilkins recalled feeling awkward and cold while meeting Ellen. Quote, "It was the coldest studio I've ever been in, figuratively and literally. It wasn't just the temperature, which was freezing." He also added that the whole experience was, quote, "the weirdest of interviews and very intimidating." Summing up the experience, saying, quote, "all very professional, but definitely not a warm and fuzzy experience." Later on in the article, he spoke of an interview he did with her in late 2013 on Australia's Today Show, where he claimed that Ellen staffers banned everyone but Wilkins from talking to Ellen on set. And based off that, I can definitely understand why he called the interview very intimidating. In at number 8, Nikkie Tutorials. Nikkie DeJagger, aka Nikkie Tutorials, was the first and probably most famous influencer to sound the alarm about Ellen. Nikkie appeared on her show after her coming out video went viral online. However, months later on a Dutch talk show, she exposed the experience was not what she expected. When asked about Ellen, Nikkie said, quote, "Let me say there's a big difference between this show and Ellen DeGeneres, and I'm saying that in favor of this show." Adding, quote, "It's nice that you say hi before the show." She didn't. Nikkie later told the Dutch magazine NC, quote, "Call me naive, but I kind of expected to be welcomed with confetti cannons. Welcome to the Ellen DeGeneres show. But instead I was greeted by an angry intern who was a bit overworked." And that last statement is even crazier because we know that Ellen's toxic workplace scandal followed right after. In at number 7, Dakota Johnson. It's impossible to talk about Ellen's downfall without acknowledging possibly the whole reason that it started was because of Dakota Johnson. The spat between them was because of Dakota's birthday party. Basically, Ellen called Dakota out on the show for not inviting inviting her to the party, but Dakota clapped back that she actually did invite Ellen. This put Ellen totally on the spot, where she had to come up with a lie very quickly. Dakota later awkwardly called Nikkie Tutorials her favorite comedian, which is kind of a dig to Ellen. Then there was also this gem of a quote from the interview where Dakota flat out said, quote, "I didn't even know you liked me," to Ellen. Hopefully Ellen was never actually mean to her, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised. In at number 6, David Mack. BuzzFeed Deputy Director of Breaking News David Mack has not been shy in his tweeting of Ellen following her decision to end her show. After the news broke, he simply tweeted out, quote, "Ellen is retiring to spend more time with George W. Bush." And honestly, that statement kind of adds up, considering the weekend Ellen didn't go to Dakota Johnson's birthday. That started their whole debacle. She was at a football game with George Bush. After Ellen recently claimed the whole scandal against her was orchestrated, he tweeted out again saying, "Simply no," then adding, quote, "Imagine being shocked that your junior employees are having a bad time because all your celebrity friends who are there for 5 minutes are having a great time." This was referencing an article where Ellen claimed her guests only spoke highly of the show. Halfway at number 5, Bridget Todd. Podcast host Bridget Todd reacted to the news of Ellen's show ending by tweeting out, quote, "It will never not be funny to me that Ellen's public downfall started when she lied about not being invited to Dakota Johnson's party, when in reality she couldn't come because she was at a football game with her good friend George W. Bush." Bridget later said that nepotism is probably a part of the reason that Dakota had the guts to stand up to Ellen in the first place. And if you didn't already know, Dakota Johnson is the daughter of celebrities Melanie Griffith and Don Johnson. And I completely agree. Most celebrities without connections probably would have just agreed with whatever Ellen said on her show. And at number 4, Kavos. Commentary YouTuber Kavos also commented on the situation after the news broke. He quote tweeted a news article about the show ending, adding, quote, "Ellen is leaving the Ellen show. Her reasoning is that it wasn't a challenge anymore. LOL, sure thing, bud." This sentiment has been all over social media because following her many scandals last summer, the Ellen show's ratings this year absolutely tanked. It was reported that following the season 18 premiere, the show's ratings plummeted from an average of 2.6 million to 1.5 million, a 43% overall decline. A lot of shows have declined because of COVID, but hers was definitely the worst drop. I wonder why. In at number 3, Kevin T. Porter. If you remember last year's Ellen scandal, then you definitely know who Kevin T. Porter is. He basically brought Ellen's meanness to mainstream attention when he tweeted out, quote, "Right now we all need a little kindness. You know, like Ellen DeGeneres always talks about. She's also notoriously one of the meanest people alive. Respond to this with the meanest insane stories you've heard about Ellen being mean, and I'll match everyone with $2 to the LA Food Bank." It seemed like almost instantly stories started flooding in of people sharing their terrible encounters with her. One waitress actually claimed that Ellen got her fired because she had chipped nails, while another person said none of the staff were allowed to look at her in the eyes. From all the crazy stories that he got, Porter ended up donating $600 to the charity. In at number 2, Brad Garrett. The Everybody Loves Raymond star called out Ellen in a tweet in the midst of her last scandal, proving some people in Hollywood knew of her mean streak long before we did. He wrote on Twitter that her behavior was not a shock to him, or anyone else in the industry for that matter. He replied to a tweet about the Ellen scandal and added, quote, "Sorry, but it comes from the top. No more than one who were treated horribly by her. Common knowledge." That tweet is now deleted. Garrett had appeared on the show multiple times before he made his statement, so what he was saying was definitely true. And finally, at number 1, Hedda Muskat. Hedda Muskat, who worked as a producer on the Ellen show when it first debuted, did an interview on the Australian news program Sunrise where she exposed the truth. When asked about Ellen's recent departure from the show, Muskat said, quote, "The viewers have spoken. Her ratings have been in the toilet for a long time now. Her show has not been fun. It's not been interesting. And she's not really, by the way, stepping down. The viewers fired her." She also went on to explain that the viewers were most likely disappointed by her phoniness, more so than her terrible actions to her staff. Adding, quote, "I feel the viewers feel duped in a way, that she's not this nice person, and they're not going to put up with the backstage racism and bullying that goes on." So clearly Muskat did not have a good time on the show and didn't hold back with her feelings that Ellen is most likely not stepping away from the show. I feel like a lot of people are feeling that way.
I told everyone in our first meeting that the Ellen DeGeneres show would be a place of happiness. Obviously, something changed, and I'm disappointed to learn that this has not been the case.
That's what I said when I saw it. Oh.
Ellen DeGeneres and her show have been getting exposed recently for all sorts of stuff. It's kind of hard to remember it all. But people are also looking back into old clips from her show and discovering that there were plenty of times we saw Ellen for who she really was, but we just didn't really notice it at the time. Starting off this list, we have this awkward moment with Sofia Vergara, and looking back at it now, it's kind of cringy. And I would know, I'm the queen of cringe. Basically in the clip you can see multiple times that Ellen has made jokes about Sofia's accent and even hinting at the fact that she's bad at speaking English. In one clip saying that since she's been doing a Spanish word of the day, she wants to help Sofia with her English and teach her an English word. And what makes it worse is Sofia did not look amused and subtly clapped back by saying, "I know English very well," under her breath. But even though it makes Sofia visibly uncomfortable, Ellen still brings it up a lot. With Ellen then making a joke in front of the Modern Family cast, saying that even though she's been on the show for 10 years, her accent keeps getting worse. Then adding that she can hardly understand her anymore. As we all know, it's kinda crappy to make fun of someone for their accent, and just a really low blow in general, and it's even worse now seeing how uncomfortable it made Sofia at the time.
And at number 9, mocked fan gifts. Another super questionable moment was when Ellen decided she was gonna do a segment where her fans would submit their terrible Christmas gifts and Ellen would comment on it. And since the fans would have been sending in gifts that they knew would be made fun of, this is all in good fun. But the problem is that not everyone who was included knew that they were gonna be on the list of bad gifts. And Ellen, I guess, decided to include a bad gift of her own. But sadly, it was a piece of art that was drawn by a fan, with a picture being of Ellen and her wife Portia, and when Ellen picks it up and the audience gives it the classic "aw" because of how sweet the gesture was, Ellen kinda shuts it down and jokes that when she first saw it, she thought of it more of a disappointing ugh instead of an endearing one. Then joking that the portrait was the 10th one the person had painted and it took 10 tries to get it right. Then if you weren't sure if she was making fun of the painting or not, she decided to make a joke about how their hair was woven together in the photo, then talk about how she was gonna give it to Ryan Seacrest and Kelly Ripa because it looked a lot more like them. Ouch.
At number 8, we have the mocked translator. Next up, we have this scene where Ellen had a young Asian boy on her show and was asking him about his love of guitar, but he did not speak English fluently, so there was a translator that came with him on the show. So after Ellen asked the boy what more he wanted to learn, the translator translated it into his language, but after it sounded like she was saying way more than Ellen had just asked, Ellen cut off the translator, saying that she only needed to ask him the one sentence, basically hinting that she was saying too much, which I'm sure she was just trying to give him more context so he could answer the question more appropriately. But then when they get in a small debate over what a fingerstyle guitar means, Ellen gets a little sassy when she asks the girl to ask him what he means instead of assuming.
And at number 7, embarrassing fan photos. This is another one that is very questionable. In this segment, Ellen decides to surprise her audience by showing some of their most embarrassing Facebook pictures to the whole world. When Ellen calls out the guest, they look shocked and horrified as they are asked to stand up and explain whatever crazy picture that Ellen has of them on screen. Many of the pictures are the type that could get you in trouble at work, with a lot of them showing drinking or nudity or both. And you can tell that a lot of people are incredibly uncomfortable that everyone can now see their dirty laundry like this. And when I first saw this, I thought there's no way that they couldn't know this was happening, right? Because they would have had to give Ellen their Facebook profiles. But this is just a little theory. I'm assuming that what happened is that the guests offered up their Facebook profiles for some other reason. But then the show ended up using their profile to dig up these embarrassing photos instead of using it for the purpose they were supposed to. I don't know about you guys, but I would have literally broke down crying if the world were to see some of my embarrassing Facebook photos. Some of them are real bad.
At number 6 on the list, we have Jessica Simpson. This next one was really uncomfortable and honestly kinda hard to watch. In 2017, Ellen did an interview with Jessica Simpson, and although Jessica does seem a tad more ditzy than usual and messing up some numbers, Ellen tries to make it a bit. And then Ellen makes Jessica the butt of the joke, at one point joking after she asks Jessica how long it's been since she was in the music business, saying, "Well, we know you're not good with numbers because you don't even know how long you've been married." And she spends most of the interview being pretty condescending towards Jessica. After the episode aired, many people started to speculate that Jessica might have been intoxicated during this interview based on how she was acting, with Jessica later revealing in 2020 that her Ellen interview was a weak moment for her and that she was struggling with alcohol issues at the time. Jessica added that she can't even bring herself to watch the interview now.
Halfway through number 5, Viola Davis. This next one came from an interview Ellen did with Viola Davis. Viola had just won an Emmy at the time and was explaining the importance of that win to her, and Ellen asked her about her speech at the Emmys, and Viola then went into a long story about how what she said was actually a Harriet Tubman quote, and she loved how perfect it was for that moment because of how progressive the quote is. And after Ellen let her explain, they both started joking around how they were both thankful it was a quote so Viola couldn't get into any trouble for what she said. But then people thought it was pretty disrespectful when Ellen said that she thought that she was drunk when she was first giving the speech, which some people thought was mitigating the power of the words that Viola was literally just speaking about to just being a drunk rant.
At number 4, we have Priyanka Chopra. As you would know if you saw the Dakota Johnson interview, Ellen loves calling people out for things that they actually don't deserve to be called out for. So Ellen had Priyanka Chopra on her show right after she got married to Nick Jonas. Priyanka was joking about how she only had 200 people at the wedding, and it was a struggle to figure out who was close enough to the couple to come. Then Ellen started speaking about her relationship with Nick, saying that she had known him since he was a child, and then even saying that Ellen was his landlord for a bit. Then Ellen dropped a bombshell when she made a dig about being cut off from the wedding. And before she could even finish her sentence, Priyanka clapped back, saying that her and Nick were actually incredibly offended that Ellen did not even care to respond to their invite to their wedding. Then Ellen denied she was ever invited, while Priyanka continued that she was surprised Ellen would stand them up when she was so close to Nick. So it didn't seem like we ever got the real truth here, and there's potential that Priyanka was just joking, but if not, I'm so glad she clapped back.
And at number 3, Lady Gaga. This is another thing that was definitely really uncalled for, but I'm hoping was all in good fun, even though it definitely made Gaga very uncomfortable. Basically, Lady Gaga was going to be on the show for the first time in years to promote A Star Is Born, but literally as soon as the interview started, Ellen basically just berated her for not returning her text, saying how she had just texted her but never got a response. But when she reached out to Bradley, he got back to Ellen almost immediately. Then Gaga tried to end the situation by saying that she either didn't know what her number was or she blocked Ellen by accident. Then it was clear Ellen wasn't buying it, and she said that she always writes that it's her because she knows celebrities change their numbers often, with it ending by them both joking about how often they change their phone numbers and it awkwardly kinda ending there.
At number 2, we have Drew Barrymore. This next one was from an interview with Drew Barrymore, and if you didn't already know, Drew Barrymore was one of the most famous childhood stars of all time, and that's because of this. She dealt with a lot of substance abuse issues, with her getting checked into rehab before the age of 13. And this is all relevant because of the interview. In the interview, Ellen and Drew talk about Drew's 2 kids, and Drew gushes about how much she loves being a mom. Then when Ellen asks her what her daughter's age is, Drew replies 6. Ellen replied 6, so around the age you started drinking. And even though Drew seemed to take the joke very well and was upfront about the fact probably being true, it was still seen in really bad taste to most people, since Drew had been so open about those issues in the past.
And taking the number 1 spot, we have this time an interview with Taylor Swift, when Ellen low-key shamed her for all the guys she had dated. The interview started with Ellen asking Taylor which guy that one of her songs was about. When Taylor said that she wasn't gonna answer that, Ellen then gave her a bell to ring when the guy popped up on screen. So Ellen gave her the bell, and tons of guys started to show up on the screen, with some being guys that Taylor had dated, and with others being people she hardly talked to before. Again, making a joke out of the fact that Taylor is perceived to date every man in Hollywood. And even though Taylor looks really uncomfortable with it the whole time, Ellen never really lets up, and people think that Taylor was even tearing up near the end of the interview. Like we said in the last one, Ellen is getting exposed online left, right, and center. And old clips from her show are no exception.
With people online taking the free time they have in quarantine to dig up old moments from the Ellen show that are pretty cringy and embarrassing when you watch them now.
Yeah. Starting off at number 10, we have Mariah Carey. One of the worst moments that ever happened on Ellen unfortunately involved Mariah Carey. After rumors had been swirling that recently married Mariah and Nick Cannon were expecting, every news outlet was trying to get the official announcement. And when Mariah was scheduled to be on Ellen's show, Ellen wanted to do whatever she could to take advantage of that opportunity. In the 2008 clip, you can see Ellen ask Mariah if she's pregnant, and before Mariah can even answer, Ellen gets up and grabs champagne for the both of them, with Ellen adding that if she's not pregnant, they should be able to toast to it. And meanwhile, Mariah looks incredibly uncomfortable and is trying to come up with excuses as to why she can't drink. Then after a lot of back and forth, Mariah raises it to her lips and then ends it by saying it's too early for her to drink, which then makes Ellen cheer that Mariah must be pregnant then. Mariah never ended up confirming it on the show, but it did come out years later that she actually was pregnant, but ended up suffering a miscarriage only a few weeks after going on the show.
At number 9, we have Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber probably regretted coming on the Ellen show after this super awkward moment. Ellen starts off the interview by asking him about his new music and telling the audience about his YouTube video in Iceland. But then Ellen pivots to another photo of Justin, and this is a paparazzi photo of Justin in Bora Bora, totally naked, but obviously blurred, because it is the Ellen show. In the beginning of the interview, Justin doesn't seem that fazed by the questions and owns up to the embarrassing pictures. But then Ellen starts asking about a girl that's in the back of the photo, asking if he's dating anybody. Justin quickly responds that she's just a friend. But Ellen doesn't buy that, with her asking, "You just brought a friend to Bora Bora and you're just naked with your friend?" Justin looks super embarrassed and asks Ellen why she's putting him on the spot like that, even asking her to stop at one point, saying the questions are making him blush.
And at number 8, Celine Dion. Another super awkward moment happened between Ellen and Celine Dion. Celine was on the show to promote her new album that she was releasing, but before Ellen could ask Celine about the album, she first made a point to ask her when she was cutting her son's hair. In the 2007 clip, Ellen told Celine that she has been forgetting to cut her son's hair, then showing a picture of her son, adding, quote, "Look at him, he is beautiful, but look at this hair. When are you gonna cut that hair?" Almost immediately you can tell that Celine is so over these questions, quickly snapping back at Ellen, asking her if she has a problem with that. Then fed up Celine went into a bit of a rant, saying, quote, "Some people shave the head of their children and people say, oh, isn't that terrible? Well, I don't even cut my son's hair and they say, oh my god, when is she gonna cut her son's hair? You know, whatever I do, I won't please everyone." Then going on that she even asked her son 100 times if he wants his hair cut, and he always says no. And she'll only cut his hair when he wants it done, as he makes his own decisions. Then Ellen decided to stop the awkward segment by quickly shifting to a question about Celine's album, and it was really awkward to watch.
At number 7 on this list we have Nicole Kidman. I think we all know of Nicole Kidman's strange clapping by now. I could never forget that. She's long fingers too, man. But just to make sure she would never forget it, Ellen decided to bring it up on her show. Nicole was on the show to talk about her hit TV show Big Little Lies. And after she had spoken a bit about the show, Ellen pivoted to speaking about Lion, which was the Academy Award winning film that Nicole was in. Then going on to talk about how she got a lot of attention at the Academy Awards for the way that she clapped, with Ellen then showing the clap on a reel. While Nicole tried to convince everyone that a strange lens made her hands look like that, which is probably pretty accurate, it was probably a wide angle lens that made her fingers really long. Then when Ellen wasn't buying the lens excuse, she tells her the real reason why she clapped that way, and it was to protect the diamonds that she was given to wear during the award show, saying she did not want to bring them back with a scratch on them. And although Nicole was a good sport about it, you could tell she was like a little embarrassed that people were making fun of her clap. It's a funny clap, I mean.
Okay, in at number 6, Katy Perry. This Katy Perry one was definitely pretty embarrassing for Ellen, as she forgot that Katy had been married before, with Ellen starting off the interview asking if Katy was single. When she replied she was single, Ellen then pulled out her new game, "Will you parry me?" And then Katy jokingly asks if she's gonna need to get married again. Then Ellen replies that she hasn't been married, but Katy responds that she was when she was 25 to Russell Brand. And it was more than a little awkward when Ellen then remembers. Then Katy replies back that Ellen literally gave her wedding gifts on her show. Then it was a little awkward for a second, but they got into the game and it blew over pretty fast.
At number 5 we have Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart was not happy with Ellen, after Ellen basically called her old. It all started when Martha Stewart, Snoop Dogg, and Anna Kendrick sat down for a round of Never Have I Ever on a 2016 episode of The Ellen Show. The first question was if the players had ever sexted, with all 3 of them raising the paddle that says they have. When the other players noticed Martha's paddle, even Ellen asked, "Martha, you've sexted? Do you know what that is?" Then Martha savagely responds with, "I have used technology for a lot longer than you have, Ellen." Then Ellen continues asking if this person is current or if it was a while ago. Martha looks at the paddle and responds, "It doesn't say, none of your business." And I think Martha deserves major props for how she handled that, honestly.
In at number 4, embarrassed audience member. This is another incident that got Ellen in a lot of trouble, as people didn't like that she embarrassed this random woman on TV. It all started before the show, when Ellen put out a table of swag before the taping, where people could take one item for free. But in Ellen fashion, she had some hidden cameras set up ready to expose people if they took more than one. And one woman was caught taking a lot, with the hidden camera catching her taking things from the table 3 separate times, going back and forth to not arouse any suspicion. But of course, she was caught, and Ellen called her out in front of everyone. Her reason for taking more was that it was for her sister, who was unable to attend the show. But Ellen didn't buy that and put her in Ellen jail, which at the time people thought was harmless, but looking back, putting the woman on blast like that was kinda messed up.
At number 3 we have Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams is well known for her own show and the controversial opinions of celebrities that she speaks on the daily. And when Wendy was a guest on Ellen's show, Ellen decided to ask Wendy about her son. After speaking about her son for a bit, Ellen savagely asks if Wendy thinks that her son is embarrassed of her because she's always openly speaking her mind. Wendy owned up to the fact that he's probably embarrassed, saying most kids with a mom who just says whatever she feels would be embarrassed. Although it seemed that Wendy was a good sport about the question, there is the potential that Wendy could have kind of gotten her feelings hurt from that question.
In at number 2, Dakota Johnson. This interview is just riddled with passive aggression and secondhand embarrassment for practically everyone there. But I think by now we all know the legendary Dakota Johnson interview where Dakota claps back when Ellen tries to tell a lie about her. It starts with Ellen asking Dakota about her 30th birthday party, and when Ellen quickly adds that she wasn't invited, Dakota claps back, saying, "Actually no, that's not the truth, Ellen, you were invited. Last time I was on the show last year you gave me a bunch of shit for not inviting you, but I didn't even know you wanted to be invited." With Dakota adding that she wasn't even sure that Ellen liked her. Then when they went back and forth, Dakota told her to ask anyone, as everyone knows Ellen was invited. And after producers got involved, they quickly made up a lie that Ellen was out of town that weekend. Things got even worse when Ellen brought up the fact that Tig Notaro performed at the party, with Dakota adding that Tig is her favorite comedian. After things got super awkward, Dakota quickly corrected herself, saying that Tig is actually her second favorite after Ellen, of course. And the 5-minute interview felt like 20 minutes because of just how hard it is to watch.
At number 1, we have the struggling student. And one of the worst moments to happen on the show was a really awkward interaction that Ellen had with a struggling student. In 2015, Ellen told the story of Jamie Bells, who was a grade A student, and she was struggling to pay her tuition, with her even donating blood every week for 6 months just to buy herself a computer at one point. Since Ellen is known for giving things away on her show, I'm sure the student was pretty sure she was gonna be, getting a nice chunk of change to help with her tuition. So Ellen brought her on stage, and then right as she was going to announce that the company Shutterfly was going to be paying her tuition, her producer Andy interrupts and tells her they are not actually going to be doing that after all, and instead they would be giving her a computer, with the student awkwardly replying that she already has a computer. The one she donated blood for 6 months for. And this moment is not only embarrassing for all parties, but kinda sad as well.